I also want to bring you this on I'm tempted to say a slightly lighter note. I suppose it is a lighter note in many respects. Spotify have ended its lucrative deal with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex for the couple to produce podcasts. A joint statement from Harry and Meghan's company and the streaming giant said they had mutually agreed to part their ways. Spotify confirmed it was not renewing Meghan's podcast Archetypes, which ran for 12 episodes from August 2022 for a second series. The contract was estimated to be worth about £18 million in late 2020 when they first announced this. Prior to its launch, the Prince said it would bring forward different perspectives and voices that perhaps you hadn't heard before, such as this.
That citizenship exam is so hard. I was studying for it, and I remember going, oh, my goodness, I would ask my husband, did you know this? Did you know this? And people went, oh, I had no idea.
I think they made it harder for you.
You think?
Yeah, they were like, we're going to really throw up walls on this one.
So you can see how devastated I am that this thing's being canned. This is a dark day in my house. I longed for those moments of getting home from work and waiting for the next episode to drop. And as soon as it did, I was there, laying on the bed usually with my headphones on and a nice glass of lemonade, chuckling along to the old cheeky Duchess and her endeavours with Mariah Carey and whoever else it was she had on that podcast. It was brilliant. Another big fan of the podcast, Rupert Bell, Talk Radio's royal correspondent. I know you two will share on this very dark day. Rupert, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian. Yes, I do feel it. We need a sense of solemnity and reverence here, which you clearly are bringing to the table.
I hope so.
But it could have been good. There's no two ways about it if she'd basically concentrated on her guests, because she had a pretty good, A-list lot, and particularly Serena Williams. I love my tennis, and I could have seen that. And that was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, that being really genuinely interesting, because Serena's life story is interesting, how she got to the very top and was still wanting to play and win into her 30s, the drive that she showed. That actually is a very interesting tale and needed and could be told. And it would have sought absolutely perfect vehicle for Meghan to extract all that, because presumably Serena would have been very happy to talk to her because they are friends. And so, but instead it just didn't quite give us that level of insight that perhaps we wanted as sports fans and interested in someone who is known the world over, as Mariah Carey was, although she did throw back a moment into it saying, perhaps some of her stuff about being a celebrity was came back and slightly discombobulated Meghan at one stage. So I feel that they missed a trick, and that really is my point about it, because they had the chance, but when you're trying at the same time to assert your sort of voice, as it were, and she's very keen to put her voice out there, and no one's saying that that's a bad thing. But ultimately, if the people who run it think, well, this has actually ended up being a bit bland, what's the point of it? Even if we're going to spend 20 million, then why do we need to keep doing it? And that, I think, is the sad thing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's the classic, and you and I know this because of the industry we work in, but it's the classic almost mistake of some big business like Spotify, who think that all you've got to do is get somebody mega famous to front it. What could go wrong? Well, what went wrong is that she just wasn't particularly good at it. And I don't say that as a cheap jibe. Genuinely, she was, when it came to, as give me an hour in the room talking to Serena Williams, I would love to do that. One of the greatest athletes of her time. The greatest of tennis players, all of that. I don't think she produced the goods in that respect, which makes you wonder, though, the only reason that Spotify would ditch something is that if it's not getting the traffic they wanted, one would assume.
Well, I think Spotify have caught a cold, not only with Meghan and Harry, but other celebrities that they have brought on board. The chief executive a few years back just sort of started, anyone, and was splashing the cash. And clearly that is not working. And as we all know, making good content is never easy, and you have to, it has to feel genuine. But and anything that is, and particularly in the podcast environment, and let's be honest, lots of people, that's what they do. I mean, now commuting and everything. The generation, probably not our generation, but I know that my children and everything, when they go to work, they go and download their favorite podcast, because that's what they're engaged, and they get engaged by whatever it is across a whole spectrum of life, as it were. So they had every chance. Now, clearly, there will be some people who will have enjoyed it for what it is, but actually, you've got to produce any content, and this is for Harry and Meghan. The content they've got to produce, yes, they want to be heard, but let's be heard. You want to actually bring voices of other people, not making you part of the story. Yeah. And I think that's what they found hard, or she may have found hard, is to sort of let go and actually say, right, I'm going to ask the questions. It's all going to be about the person I'm interviewing, because then actually, as the interviewer, you will get the plaudits for getting the best out of your subject and making it interesting. Isn't that the way it works? And I feel is what happened to the Archetypes, in that it was bland, and it was the other one, Sarah Ferguson's just produced one. Well, I listened to the first part of that one that came out recently, and within 20 minutes, I wondered what I may not have been the target market. It was about, but it just turned into a bit of a giggle-thon, and nothing really was coming out of it. And that's, people want to feel they get, even if it may be free, you still want to feel you're getting something, instead of just hearing a lot of vacuous chat for half an hour under the guise that this is real entertainment. You have to work harder for that, and that's what Harry and Meghan have got to do.
You're absolutely spot on. Rupert, great to get your take on this. Thank you. Rupert Bell, Talk Radio's royal correspondent, on the response of Meghan Markle and Harry and the absence of her new podcast. It's gone, Doug. It's disappeared. No more.